Being an adolescent comes with temptations, frustrations, and a ton of mixed messages. So going it alone should never really be an option.
A huge protective factor is having that one strong, trusted adult.
Today on The Best of Our Knowledge, we'll talk about the importance of having that one trusted adult. We'll also spend an academic minute with faculty helping students succeed. I'm Bob Barrett, and this is The Best of Our Knowledge. We can all use a little help now and then, but for young students, it's essential. Having an older person they can turn to for help or advice or just to rant at can make a big difference. That's the message behind the new book from Brooklyn Rainey called One Trusted Adult: How to Build Strong Connections and Healthy Boundaries with Young People. Brooklyn Rainey is the founder and lead trainer at One Trusted Adult, a company that offers research-based programs and professional development opportunities with the goal of ensuring every young person has that one thing that is crucial to their well-being and success: an accessible, boundaried, and caring trusted adult. I asked her about the book and the philosophy.
This is something so important to me, and it comes from being a school administrator. I sat in an auditorium, and month after month, and it was actually, we would hear prevention program after prevention program. And one month I heard, it was back to back to back. There was a suicide prevention group that came in, a sexual assault prevention group that came in, and a substance abuse prevention group that came in. And it was in the third time when I really heard them say, because I then recognized this theme had been repeated, which was, if you have a question, concern, worry, seek out a trusted adult. And that a huge preventative factor, protective factor for young people in terms of all of these risks and worries that we most fear, a huge protective factor is having that one strong, trusted adult, one at home, one at school, in the other areas where you spend a lot of time as a young person. That's one way we can prevent the things we're most worried about and most scared about. And as a school administrator, I looked around the auditorium, and it really struck me, like, do these young people see us, the adults surrounding them every day, as those trusted adults? And do the adults in the building see themselves in this capacity? As the prevention groups are advertising, are we these adults that are willing to build trusted relationships with young people to prevent our biggest fears?
You know, it's interesting you say that there might be some adults who think they are that person, and in the student's mind, no way.
We see that, yeah. So we actually have a tool called Operation OTA where we assess that, and we actually ask the adults who they think they might be trusted adults for, and they write them out. This is an exercise to ensure every child can name one at school, and then throughout the year we actually ask the students. And there's often a mismatch, and what we find is many young people in the building name the same trusted adults. So the counselors and the charismatic get named over and over and over by the students. And that can be a really big burden for one or two or a few adults in a building to carry. And so we're trying to build a capacity and a commitment in all adults to show up in this way for young people.
Is it more helpful if it's not in school, if they do have that trusted adult at home?
They need both. They need all. They need many. Our mission's called One Trusted Adult, but it's really at least one trusted adult. And we are on a mission to ensure that they have that trusted adult at home or in their community, parent, guardian, close family member, neighbor, as well as at school. They spend so much time at school, and because communities have been fractured by COVID and remote learning, we think it's really important that they are bridging that connection and finding that person in school as well.
What can this one trusted adult help with? Are there specific needs, there specific parts of a child's life or a student's life that they really need this adult?
So there's the preventative and there's the reactive. So when there's been some type of crisis, sadly, school shootings that are happening all too often, obviously a trusted adult is needed in a big way for the comfort and the coaching through grief, and just sitting with someone and being with them through hard times. That is 100% needed. The other place where it's needed is in the preventative, proactive place I was speaking about. So in building that relationship, we're building resilience in young people. We're building a commitment to learning. We're showing them how to try and fail and get back up. And the needs that we're meeting, we talk about the universal youth needs. We call them the basics, like getting back to the basics. It's belonging and membership, ability to contribute, safety and structure, independence and a sense of control, competence and mastery, as well as self-awareness and spirituality. And that's what we're working on adults in assessing. We call it an aquarium or like a fishbowl, like what's in your water? How are you working to set up a space that allows young people to get their needs met in your presence?
Very early in the book, you have this one line, and I'd just like you to expand on it a bit. Young people are like disco balls. Explain.
I think, well, in my trainings, I always say adults first, educators especially are like disco balls. We are hanging by a thread. We're spinning. We're reflecting back all that's around us. But we reference students and young people as disco balls because they really are this ball of mirrors. And they're looking to reflect back all that's around them. And we've got to help them cultivate that, because in middle school, early adolescence is a time when they start liberating from their parents. So they were born, and the first person you are reflecting is those like at-home adults who's around you most often. You start to mimic that. And as you age, you add a few more squares to that disco ball and invite more people in. And then as middle school, high school hits, they start to turn off the parents square. I hit that hard with my son. He was like total, like push away, resist, reject. We were not going to be on that disco ball for a little while. And he was seeking something else. And there's a lot out there in the world that they can seek right now, specifically through social media and access through the internet. There's some dangerous places they can get to. And so if we have proactively built a network of adults for our children, for our students that are there for them when they start to resist the parent pressure and the parent influence, we can give those squares away to other healthy adults invested in our children's well-being.
Is there any sense of guilt a student would have if they just can't put their parent in that box as being the trusted adult? It's somebody else out of the home?
I haven't seen a sense of guilt. That's a really interesting question. I think that sometimes young people feel guilty seeking out another adult versus their parent. And a parent's role is really to make that okay. As long as they've run them through the ABC test, we always say accessible, boundaried, and caring. But for instance, my son, I watched it was so present for me, this moment. He was learning to drive, and he had a rough night. Football didn't go well, failed a test, friendship drama. It was just like all happening at once, and he was really down. And there was nothing, like as the mom, I'll bake you cookies, I'll make you a burger, like food, fun. What can I do? How can I help? And it was killing me that he was just down and hurting. And we decided, one thing he loves to do, obviously, as a new driver is drive. I was like, what if we drive to Dairy Queen? Let's just get in the car and you can drive. And we pulled in to get gas, and nothing I was doing was helping. And from across the parking lot, someone yelled his name. And it was someone I didn't know. It was an adult I didn't know. And I looked out and I just kind of slumped down in the chair. I was kind of listening with the window open as this male adult walked over and gave him a high five and said, "We've missed you, man. Where you been? I hope we're going to see you again. Oh, it's so great to see you. How are you?" It was like a 3-minute interaction. And my son got back in the car so differently than he exited. His shoulders were up, his eyes were wider, and he got to tell me about this man he worked with in the summer at a dock company and how he's so great. And he told me all about this man's life. And I could tell that 3-minute interaction was given to him by this other adult was something I could not, as a parent, deeply committed to my son's growth, development, and well-being. I couldn't give him that. And that's where I see the importance in this work.
In the book, you talk about how you already spoke here about basic youth needs, and you say in the book there are 42 challenges, but you break down 3 core challenges of young people right now. I wonder if we could go through those. One of them was technology and social media, which I think we can all agree on.
Technology, social media, we talk about anxiety and mental health, as well as developing sexual health and understanding of sexual health. And it's interesting because I wrote this book just before the pandemic, and I'm very interested now in the research coming out in the Youth Risk Behavior Survey and what we'll learn from today's young people, because what we're seeing anecdotally is more concern over isolation, disconnection, lacking in social skills and ability to build healthy and well-rounded and balanced friendships. So it's always changing, but my real point is that one way that an upstream approach to positively impacting all of that, no matter the worry, no matter the concern, no matter the hot topic of the month that they're most worried about, the vaping statistics are out and so many teens are vaping. Mm-hmm. There's lots of reactive things we can do. But if we could all adults in a community, in a home, in a school, really lean into allowing young people to feel known, named, and valued in our presence, I really believe that we can prevent so many of those things.
I think anyone who's ever gone to school knows those 1 or 2 students who were the outcasts, who no one can reach, who no one can talk to. Mm-hmm. Is there something that can be done? I mean, you simply can't assign a trusted adult.
No, you can't. And the funniest thing that I've seen happen is when I ask, so an educator, recently, I'll tell you this story. Recently, an educator shared with me that young man walks in the building, hood up, head down every day. No interest in engaging, no interest in learning, no interest in talking, connecting. And she feels like she's tried everything. And so I asked, is there another trusted adult in the building? Is there someone you can partner with? Is there someone that he would name as a trusted adult? And she said, are you kidding me? He's got a psychologist, the counselor, the PE teacher, named all these adults around this child. And we're very well resourced and he has everything he could need. And I simply asked, has anyone asked him? And she said, no, but I will. Tomorrow I'll go in and I'll ask. And she came back to me that day and said that she asked him, he said he couldn't name anyone. And so when she asked, is there someone at school you would like to connect with? He said, yeah, the shop teacher. And she said, oh, why the shop teacher? Oh, well, he presented this amazing remote control lawnmower at the all-school meeting last week, and I'm really interested in that. And she said, oh, okay, well, let me set you up a meeting with the shop teacher. And he met with him one time after school. Amazing shop teacher was like, sure, send him down. And all of a sudden, with the shop teacher saying, if you sit up, hood off, and engage in class, you can come after school every single day, but only with a good report from your teacher, and we can build a remote control lawnmower of your own. And this lawnmower and this question to a young person of asking, do you have a trusted adult at school, and how can I help you build a relationship with someone that you might be interested in, has completely changed this young person's life and his approach to school. But that also changes the dynamics of the classroom, right? Going to school with someone who's got their hood up and doesn't want to do anything, it changes your experience. And she has stated that this has transformed the whole experience for the entire group.
Still to come, our conversation with Brooklyn Rainey continues with a look at the importance of setting boundaries in the student-adult relationship. That's next on The Best of Our Knowledge. Got any questions or comments about the best of our knowledge? Send them in. Our email address is knowledge@wamc.org. And if you'd like to listen to this or any past programs again, you can find them online at our flagship station's website. Just go to wamc.org and click on the programs link. And while you're there, subscribe to the Best of Our Knowledge's podcast or download the WAMC radio app to listen on demand, anytime, any place. This is the Best of Our Knowledge. I'm Bob Barrett, and our guest today is Brooklyn Rainey, author of the new book called One Trusted Adult: How to Build Strong Connections and Healthy Boundaries with Young People. We talked about the do's and don'ts of that student-adult relationship.
So the ABCs, back to this, we talk about the ABCs: accessible, boundaried, and caring. And we should always be assessing our own actions and our interactions through this lens. Accessible is about showing up, it's about being present, and it's about being emotionally available, advertising to young people that you are interested and open to a connection, a relationship, building trust. Boundaries is the overlay on both sides. Well, I'll say care. Care is about an investment in another person's well-being. We, I think, pretty universally know how to care and how we feel when we are cared for. The boundary overlays those two outer circles. The boundaries is about a mutual declaration and understanding of how we're going to live and work together. It's about respecting each other's physical space, emotional space, and valuing one another and keeping them safe. It's the overlap of accessibility with boundaries and care with boundaries where trust is built and burnout is beat. So we take this idea of boundaries and say, yes, it is about protection of kids. It's always about protection of youth. And in every training you've ever done as an educator, it will be the litany of forbidden practices, the things you are not supposed to do. But it's also about the protection of the adults, the protection of them from that standpoint of not stepping over the line, advertently or inadvertently, but also the sustainability of their career. That when we care too much or we are too accessible, we can burn out and we are no longer available to be the trusted adults young people need because we've just gone too far, either hero syndrome or savior syndrome or whatever you want to call it. And within those boundaries, we break it down as brick walls, chain link fences, baby gate boundaries, and invisible fences, because it's so much more complex than any training, at least I had ever been to as an educator, where they told us to be mean till Halloween, and that's how you earn the respect, and that's how you set the boundary and you carry on. It's so much more complex. Brick wall being the legal boundaries, the child protection boundaries, our mandated reporting responsibilities. Chain link being the difference in a relationship that a parent might have with a young person and an adult in a formal role as a volunteer mentor, teacher, after school program director. We have a different role. There's a gate in the fence. Again, the parents can go through, the grandparents can go through, but those of us who've signed a contract to work with these young people stay on the other side. Things like technology, for instance, is a place where I've seen many adults accidentally or not accidentally walk through that gate and build relationships with a young person on the other side where they shouldn't be. Those types of things we dig into in our trainings. And then baby gate boundaries is about adjusting as we trust. How far can we trust a person in the space that we oversee, whether it's a locker room, a field, a classroom? What kind of trust can we build where we can actually allow for more student leadership, for more student ownership, where we can step back further and further and further? And then the invisible fences are the things we agree to do, the social norms that are just a part of our culture and community that we live by that send very strong messages to the young people in our care about who is celebrated, who matters, who belongs. And so these four, we call it the 4-part sustainable safeguarding framework, are about, again, young people's safety as well as adult safety. And in those frames, we dig in on all the behaviors, actions, and especially language used to create trust and keep everyone safe.
Very interesting, especially thinking of a litigious society where maybe some of these adults will purposely keep a child at arm's length just to protect themselves.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, we see that all the time. You're asking me to be a trusted adult right now in a litigious society where we see educators in trouble, losing their jobs. They were just in the wrong place at the wrong time. But at the same time, the statistics, at least pre-COVID, were 1 in 10 students, K through 12, in the United States were being sexually abused, assaulted, neglected by an adult in the school building. 1 in 10. So I understand how careful and how safe and specific we need to be in our language surrounding boundaries. And I also obviously understand, see, and want to support the importance of these trusted relationships.
Well, COVID was the elephant in the room for 2 years, and you talked about there will be some statistics coming out on that. Have you anecdotally seen more burnout from both sides, students and adults?
Oh, definitely. There's a huge gap. The gap feels like it's growing and growing and growing. I feel for educators in this country. I'm sure you do too. It just felt like a waterfall. It was coming down on them so hard, and many feel like it still is. And this is the last thing they want to be talking about, is leaning into building relationships, because there's so many demands, so many initiatives, so many things to be reviewing and understanding and then teaching, like on top of all of it, teaching their core content and curriculum. So yeah, I see a pullback from the adults, and then as the second the adult starts to pull back, the students start to pull back too. There's also lots of data out there on increased issues with behaviors in schools, which again creates this gap. So we are trying to build programs, provide free ideas and resources for educators to foster connection and fun. That's what we keep coming back to at the core of all of it: foster connection and fun. This will lead to hopefully preventing the risky behaviors we're concerned about, and lead to greater availability and engagement in learning.
Is some of this from your own experience? Who were your trusted adults?
I had so many, and that's the other side to this story. I started by telling you sort of my educator lens, my administrator in the auditorium, on where this mission came from. But the other is that I grew up with so many. I lived in a very small town in Ontario, Canada. 2 parents in the house, set of grandparents 1 block to the left, set of grandparents 1 block to the right. Aunts, uncles, lifeguards, hockey coaches, softball coaches, school secretary, teachers, you name it. I really had a lot of adults deeply invested in my growth and development and success and my happiness. And then went off to boarding school in Indiana, where again, I was surrounded by incredible adults. And so to then enter the world as an adult and work with youth or talk to other adults and realize that not many people can say the same. Or not enough people can say the same for their experience as mine. I feel like I have been born to go on this mission to create the kinds of adults I was surrounded by, to honor and thank them for what they did for me by pouring that out and paying it forward.
Well, finally, tell us about Operation OTA.
Operation OTA is a school-wide, year-long program where we understand it's really hard to get into schools to do professional development, and there's a lot, they're tired. Educators are tired, and it's hard, and timing is hard. And so we've put together a package with a lot of input from educators on what they need. That's a sort of do-it-yourself PD. We give you the slides and the exercises and the information to run the PD on being accessible, boundaried, and caring, as well as the universal youth needs. We also talk about the 4 modes of trusted adulting and how to mentor cheerleaders, challengers, comforters, and coaches, that in any given moment where we're interacting with a young person, we are pulling one of those levers. We are entering into a space of needing to be that cheerleader, challenger, comforter, and coach. And there's a lot of evidence that shows we need to be able to do all of those, but we tend to lean towards one. And so how we partner with our colleagues to support young people so they've got this 4-to-1 ratio, that's all a part of this training. as well as an assessment tool, like I mentioned, on assessing how many young people in your school can name a trusted adult, and then action plans on increasing that percentage, as well as lesson plans and school-wide student-led activity ideas, again, that foster that connection and fun. So Operation OTA is our most accessible. We want to get it to every school, everywhere. It's all an e-download, super simple. And then we've got a Ripple curriculum, advisory curriculum and mentorship curriculum that people might be interested in. And we're always sending out free resources and ideas by month, by theme. So signing up for our newsletter is a great way to get some of that free content.
All right. And where can we go to find out about that?
OneTrustedAdult.com, or on all the places, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, you name it. We're there.
Again, the name of Brooklyn Rainey's book is One Trusted Adult, How to Build Strong Connections and Healthy Boundaries with Young People. You can learn more at OneTrustedAdult.com. Every student already has access to a bunch of adults every day. They're called teachers, and they are key to a student's success. That's the topic of today's Academic Minute.
Faculty have a large role to play in student success, but not just in the classroom. I'm Dr. Lynn Pascarella, President of the American Association of Colleges and Universities, and today on the Academic Minute, Catherine Boucher, Associate Professor of Psychology at the University of Indianapolis, explores how to make students feel included.
A growing evidence base demonstrates the critical importance of a sense of belonging, feeling your identities are valued, and believing that others think you can succeed in college. New research highlights the role that university instructors play in fostering these student experiences. In the Student Experience Project, STEM instructors across 6 U.S. universities incorporated classroom changes with equity, belonging, and growth in mind. They revised their syllabi and course policies, provided students with feedback signaling their beliefs in students' potential, and worked to foster a classroom culture of care and inclusion. Instructors also assess students' experiences in the course multiple times across the term. During the 2020-2021 academic year, over 100 STEM instructors implemented these interventions in their classes, reaching over 10,000 college students. Across the network of instructors, we saw a narrowing or closing of experience gaps between student groups who have been historically underserved or underrepresented in STEM, like women, BIPOC students, and lower-income students, and those who have not. When students' experiences were linked to their academic outcomes, we found that faculty efforts to improve student experiences in the classroom were strongly associated with better grades. More students earning A's or B's, and fewer students receiving D, F, or W's in their STEM courses. When comparing these academic outcomes to student performance in past terms of the same courses with the same instructors, DFW rates were reduced and AB rates increased. Although some equity gaps in academic outcomes persisted, this work shows that centering instruction upon students' sense of belonging and growth potential has clear benefits for students and for institutions' student success efforts.
That was Catherine Boucher of the University of Indianapolis. You can find this, other segments, and more information about the professors at academicminute.org.
The Academic Minute is a production of WAMC Northeast Public Radio in partnership with the Association of American Colleges and Universities. That's all the time we have for this week's program. If you'd like to listen again, join us online at our flagship station's website. Go to WAMC.org and click on the programs link. And while you're there, subscribe to our podcast or any of the other WAMC or National Productions podcasts. And if you have any questions or comments about the program, send them in. Our email address is knowledge@wamc.org. And you can find us on Twitter at TBOO Knowledge. I'm Bob Barrett. Be sure to join us next time for another edition of The Best of Our Knowledge.
Bob Barrett is producer of The Best of Our Knowledge. Dr. Alan Chartock is executive producer. The Best of Our Knowledge is a production of WAMC Radio's National Productions, which is solely responsible for its content. Hear more at WAMC.org.